Chapter 11, Fights with the Sky, Fights with the Earth, Fights with Others, and Fights with the Guide. Referred to as fighting. Yan Mo suddenly fell down and twitched, and Yuan Diao and the other people were shocked. Cao Ting's reaction was not the fastest, but she remembered Yan Mo's leg injury and she immediately shouted, "Hold his injured leg! Don't let the bones shift!" Yuan Shan immediately jumped and went to Yan Mo to quickly carry the boy, restrain the boy's hand. Holding the arms, Yuan Diao was a little late, but also came over and held Yan Mo's injured leg. "What is this happening to him?" Yuan Diao asked Cao Ting. Cao Ting shook her head and her face was worried about the teenager. Yuan Shan had a speculation, but did not say it. He too and her husband looked at each other, and Yuan he also had a worried guess, so he was so heartbroken by that guess. Yuan Diao mind was more excited and he though maybe it's Swobuletan the name of the god of the priest? 10 minutes, if you say that they're short they're not short, if you say that they're long they're not long. When the teenager stopped convulsing he was already soaked, as if he had just been fished out of the water. Yuan Shan indicated to he too, "Water." He too immediately sent the remaining cold water to the teenager's mouth. Yan Mo raised his hands and hugged the water scoop. He drank 2 or 3 times and his speed slowed down subconsciously. When the water in the scoop was finished out, his mind was gradually awake. "Little Mo!" He too called him. Yan Mo's eyes slowly turned, and he struggled a little then got up from Yuan Shan's arms. That smell hit him dead. Moreover, this Yuan Shan probably didn't take a bath, and Yan Mo nose was close to the smell. The strong smell of all kinds of odors added together was so good after being mixed by the hot air. "Little Mo, what happened just now? Are you sick?" He too asked again. Yan Mo was moved in his heart, he shook his head and suddenly stopped, he rubbed his lips, his eyes swept past to Yuan he, and immediately spoke, as if afraid of being discovered, "No, nothing." But how can such a childish move, a keen observant such as he too not see it? The needle in Yuan he body was not yet out, the body cannot move, but he could speak. With weakness he immediately asked, "Good boy, do not deceive me and I know what happened to you is because of me, not you." A simple and honest face of teenager. Yan Mo raised his hand and grabbed his head, his scalp was too itchy, he must shave his hair. Smirking he replied Durenda "It's okay, you are a good person, I can't let you die." Yuan he was moved, and his heart was even more embarrassed and endlessly grateful to the teenager. "Is this the price of you saving other people's lives? This is the punishment of the Wobuletan god to you?" Yuan Diao suddenly asked. The teenager's mouth was awkward for a bit, and he was hesitant for a long time, and then he nodded slowly. "By the way," he gave Yuan Diao a -20 chilled impressions. "Also, I am so mortal and wounded, even my priests had no way to save me, someone saved me back, how can I not pay the price?" Yuan he lips were shaking, looking at his wife. He too focused on nodding, and Yuan he turned to face the teenager. He said, "Little Mo, if you want, when Yuan Zhan comes back, I will tell him to release you to my house, because you have not yet stamped the slave. In the future, as long as my family has a bite to eat, I will never let you go hungry. About your identity, I will find a way." Yan Mo was excited, he could be waiting for him to go to Yuan he home, his freedom is mostly guaranteed and no slave status means he can do more and he can leave at any time. But when Yuan Diao looked at the expression of the boy, he knew that he was moved. He suddenly felt angry and immediately screamed at Yuan he, "Little Mo belongs to Yuan Zhan. He was brought back by him. It is his future that can only be decided by Yuan Zhan. Yuan Zhan is good master for little Mo, you ask him, when Yuan Zhan is not at home, he asked my house to care for him, and said I should try to give him more meat, saying that when he is back he will repay me. This kid was still saved by Yuan Zhan. What do you mean by robbing people's slaves halfway?" Yan Mo bowed his head and re-zeroed the impression on Yuan Diao. He is not good at retorting at Yuan He couple the husband and wife, but Yuan Diao speaking was as different. Yuan He was dumb, he just wants to repay the boy, but ignores another very important thing. The young man has such ability, if he makes the boy go to his house, and it seems that Yuan He is actually getting more than he pays. If he was the original master of the boy, he was certainly not willing. If Yuan Zhan is not good master for a teenager, Yuan He thinks he can use food to exchange for a teenager. It can also be said to be a reward. If Yuan Zhan is good master for the teenager, he will open the mouth again, and it will be seen as insulting. Sorry, I don't want to rob Yuan Zhan's slave, I just... Yuan Ying intercepted the words from Yuan He. When Yuan Zhan comes back, wait for him, you can give him more winter meat, it is best reward for little Mo. Yuan He repeatedly said, of course, I'm so and so, I must take my game to Yuan Zhan and divided it in half. After a little Mo food for the winter, I can send him a package. He two hands clenched a little tight, but she did not open her mouth to prevent Yuan He from making promises. If Yuan He died, she and her children still don't know if they can survive this winter. Now it is just a matter of separating some food and feeding one more person, that is still better than losing her husband. No. Yan Mo, who retied the slightly loose fixed leg planks, suddenly shook his head. You are a Duren, you have to take care of your wounds. You have sister He too and 2 kids to feed. You don't have to give food to me, my master will make me full. In this era where one feeding depends on strength, how can a disabled person wants to raise 4 people? How much food can you divide me? How long can you divide? When I even keeps up with your family will complain to you every day, and my kindness to you will all turn into hatred. You will not be grateful to me anymore, only when I am a burden, only in that you will hope that I will die early. Although I will be free to your home, I don't want to feed your family anger in return. The teenager handled his injured leg, wiped his sweat, and smiled. If you feel that your heart is too kind, if my master is trying to beat me, you may want to help me by holding him. Or poison him, or help me escape. What Yuan He still said, was covered with He too. Before He too grabbed her own husband's hands and she quickly said, Little Mo, you can rest assured that you will be the brother of me and He in the future. We will talk to Yuan Zhan and let him be good master to you. Thank you, sister He too. Is the water is well boiled? Are the tools ready? Yan Mo doesn't want to waste his tongue on this matter. He's kind of willing to keep and it's always useful to the couple. This time, Yan Mo did not dare to settle down, only looked after Yuan He. But he didn't want to be cheaper than Yuan He, so he found an excuse to help himself. Durenda He, your injury is too heavy. Although I saved you back, you are still very weak, but also we can't wait until you're healed back, because the weather is too hot, your arm can no longer wait and you can't eat anything in the next 2 days, your physical strength will be worse, this is why I chose to deal with both of your injuries today. Yuan He and He too were grateful and listened carefully, and did not dare to interrupt him. But you have already had an operation after all, and I am worried that you can't hold the bones below when the pain comes. It doesn't matter, come on, I can stand it. All the fighters in the past were not so hard. Pain? Others can bear it, and Yuan He can naturally endure. It will be very painful, and you will not be able to stand it. The teenager appeared very worried. I have a way to make you feel no pain. I didn't do it because I couldn't bear it if you were hurt again. Once I fell, I am afraid that I will not be able to deal with your arm again in the next few days, so you will be delayed. You can prevent pain. Yuan He quickly said, then you should not give me pain relief, I can stand it, really. You can stand it, I can't stand it. Do you think I want to give you pain relief? You absolutely idiot. The teenager smiled slyly. Yes, but I can't bear to look at you in that state. It's really painful to watch. It doesn't matter. After I have finished this operation, I can rest for a few days. If I suddenly faint, Don't be too surprised, haha. After a moment, the boy said again, just. T.A.G, can you give me more meat afterwards? Of course, don't say it's worth a piece. That's good. The teenager was happy to play. One piece is enough, if it's bigger than my 2 fists. Someone at the place, including Yuan Diao, was thinking, how good is this boy? It is impossible to feel the pain. This is an incomparable even to witchcraft. In exchange, he doesn't know how much the teenager will be punished by the gods or his priests. The most important thing is that the boy wants to prevent others from being too good towards him. A piece of meat, and only 2 fists size, and he is satisfied. Yuan Shan had a thick surface that was a bit depressed. Why isn't Yuan Zhan touching little Mo? If he himself had saved little Mo, how good would that be? Yuan Diao was in a peace of mind. The young man is skillful, and his heart is kind, and his brother has earned such a little guy. Not to mention other people, even he too is still secretly thinking, why is such good boy, not the priests of Yuan tribe? If he was a tribal priest, maybe her husband would not have to cut off his arm at all, and the warriors in the family will live more longer in the future. Letting go of all the thoughts in the hearts of the people, Yan Mo pulled out the bone needle, repunctured it into another hole. He cut off Yuan He's right arm and temporarily stopped the circulation of the main blood vessels. Yuan He found that he really couldn't feel the pain from the broken arm. It was a big surprise at the moment. Looking at the boy's look is like worshipping the old priest in the tribe, and more than a love and closeness to the old priest. The other 4 people were clearly aware that Yan Mo used a scalpel to cut the decayed flesh on Yuan He's broken arm. Yuan He did not feel anything, and he could even laugh at everyone. He too shed tears on the spot. As a wife, she couldn't bear to look at her husband's pain. Although she wanted to make a fake promise to the boy, but she swears that she must treat the boy as a true relative in the future. Yuan He's broken arms has about 5 millimeters of decay. Seeing that the teenager used a stone knife to scrape the rotten flesh, Yuan Diao asked if he could cut it off directly. The young man nodded and used the needle to make a stroke. But only a little bit, it would not be very accurate to cut with a stone knife. Yan Mo said that he had not finished, and Yuan He said that he was ready, and his brother Yuan Shan also moved. A stone with a slightly flat surface was placed under his broken arm, and the part of the broken arm that needed to be removed was exposed to the stone. Yuan Diao allowed Yan Mo to give him the stone axe chop, and held Yuan He's arm with one hand, and the other arm was raised high, and it was fixed. The line that was drawn by Yan Mo was just 5 millimeters. Bone was cut off, and the fracture was smooth. Yan Mo retracted the words that had been meant to be said. He once again recognized the strength of the people here. It is not a cut, but a chop by a stone knife. This scene and strength is not comparable to modern people. The 3rd-tier fighters are like this, the 3rd-tier fighters, and the Tier 4 fighters are higher than the 3rd-tier fighters. The chopped arm also needs to be closed, although the human skin has some elasticity, but the suture toughness is weak. Yan Mo had to use 3 strands, the 3 hairs together to increase toughness. After the wound was barely sutured, Yan Mo allowed he too to coat her man wounds with the eucalyptus leaf juice, and then wrapped it with large pieces of non-toxic leaves. The leaves were fixed on the arm with a fine straw rope, and it was be replaced every day afterwards. Eucalyptus leaf juice and leaves for wrapping. If the leaves are not large enough, they can be placed in an overlapping manner. As for the wound in the abdomen, it can be wrapped in the same way if conditions permit. Yan Mo was ready to faint, but before he passed out, he suddenly thought of one thing. The Peking man, what are you going to do about him? Yuan Shan, who grabbed the person, answered very plainly, naturally, killing. Ah! The teenager was scared and couldn't bear it. Can you not kill him? Just tell him that GE is not supposed to talk about it. Cao Ting came over, held the teenager's shoulder, and softly say, the guy is not a good person. If we let him go, he will tell about the treatment of T.A.G to the priest. Yuan Diao screamed at the teenager's head, you don't have to worry about this. They still have to think about how to cover up you and he expected death and resurrection. Maybe the big leaf is a good excuse. This is not only to protect the juvenile, but also to protect you and he. If the old priests in the tribe knew that you and he was saved by other priests, this would be sure seen as a betrayed by the old priests. When the boy was unlucky, you and he might die again. But the boy seems to want to plead. Yuan Shan screamed, "Okay, you can rest assured, we will not kill him." The boy finally faint with ease, "The slave will die," and then he smirked. Suddenly his eyes closed, his expression fell in pain. In order to be perfect, and to avoid little Emo hearing something that should not be heard by him while he was in the coma, the guide decided that the boy was still dead, and he simply sneaked his bones to tie himself. This time he really fainted for really, and no matter what other people do, he can't hear it and can't stop it. Guidebook, this time, I have not seen death. I tried to save him but others killed him without me knowing it, then I can't help. Yuan Shan took the boy once more. Seeing that the teenager had fainted, he told them. Yuan Diao frowned, "The slave must not be let go. His master Yuan Bing and Yuan Zhan don't get along, he just doesn't know it." Yuan Shan laughed, "Of course you can't let the Peking slave go. Little Emo, can't bear to see people die, let's deal with it and don't tell. Just wait until he find out for that people are dead. This is almost the same." Yuan Diao nodded with satisfaction. "I can go to slaughter the Peking slave and divide the meat. This meat will not be given to little. He would not even kill a murderer. He certainly will not eat human flesh." Originally, Yuan Diao planned to chop this slave. The meat was left would be given to Yan Mo, and it felt very reasonable at the moment. Since then, all the people present have also determined that Yan Mo is not human.